Hey, welcome back everybody. Welcome back. I'm Dave Guerra. This is Let's Have a Chat About Leadership for Wednesday, May 13th. Tonight is a new segment I want to start. I hadn't been doing Wednesday shows for the longest time because I do a separate show with my brother. It's a sports talk show. Be on the lookout for that one. Check it out. We're on the YouTube. Anyway, so we're talking about leadership again, and that's kind of what we're doing. But this time I'm going to take a little spin on it. We're talking about leadership in the media. I know. I am very critical of the media, but not in the media, the sense of the news media. No, I'm talking in media, in movies, television, TV shows, audio, podcast, radio, anything, everywhere. Satellite radio also. So that's the media I'm talking about. The real media, not the different forms of media. There we go. And that's the real media. So again, here's what we're going to talk about. So again, I'm going to take a show or a podcast or a movie or something, and there's plenty of them out there. And I'm going to put my leadership spin on them, and I'll talk about what I like about it, what I don't like about it, and also what it takes to, what caught my attention and what really, if there's one part or one segment or something in that. So right off the bat, the very first one I want to talk about, well, that one is Live PD. That airs Fridays and Saturday evenings on A&E, on the A&E. It used to be called Arts and Entertainment. It's A&E TV or A&E Network now. And it's a really interesting show. It's hosted by Dan Abrams, lawyer and chief legal correspondent for ABC News, Good Morning America, all of that. Then he's got a couple of former, one active duty and one former special police officer for Washington D.C., Tom Morris Jr. And then out of the Tulsa Police Department, Sean Sticks Larson, and they're the co-hosts. Really great show, folks. If you've never seen it, take a look at it. It's very interesting. Why? Because for one, it gives that look of law enforcement on the weekends. And law enforcement on the weekends, they say it's the busiest time. I say it's just full moons. I say it just depends on where you live and how much control individuals have over themselves. And then that's kind of and how they react to other human beings. That being said, Live PD, multiple jurisdictions across the country, from the Carolinas all the way to California and in between. They've been in Texas. They've been just like the next town over for me. That was pretty interesting. And I really got to see one time how that all really worked out, how they really ran the production. And I'm not going to get into the production, but as they move across the country, anytime there's little reds and blue lights flashing, they're going to go and investigate it. And if it's worthy, they're going to go ahead and put it on the air and show. And worthy being like, it's not just a simple jaywalking, but if it turns out, that the jaywalking is because there was an assault and so on, then it becomes that kind of newsworthy kind of situation. But they also have in between really great little segments in between. They talk about the crime of the week, about the knuckleheads and what they do. Then they also do the missing persons and the wanted fugitive, and now that branched off into its own show, Live PD Wanted, and that's just strictly talking about fugitives that are being wanted. And the following, and this is where the leadership aspect comes from. They've done such a great job of involving the community, mostly on the Twitter, on the Facebook, on the Instagram, but they involve the community at large. So the entire nation now is on the side of, the police officers dealing with the knuckleheads in Carolina. I'm in Texas. And then you also see them dealing with the knuckleheads in California. And I'm in Texas, so I'm kind of siding with that. But then there's sometimes that, you kind of like, well, I understand what's going on. I understand. I've been in that same situation, or I know somebody who has been in the same situation. So I understand their frustration. You also start to empathize with the victims. You also start to, in some cases, sometimes even the assailants, the ones that are accused of the crime. It could be a crime of passion, and you can kind of understand that. But then there's sometimes just people want to be knuckleheads just to be knuckleheads. And so the show has done a great job of involving the entire nation. The one that's called the Live PD Nation, and they've really done a good job involving them into and bringing them into the fold of what's going on with police work, investigative work, and the follow-up, and bringing some closures to some missing individuals. And that really truly does say a lot about the show and its impact. It's only been on the air a couple of years, but it's already had such a huge, right from the get-go, it had such a huge impact that when they take a couple of weeks off for spring break, it totally puts our world and all the fans' world kind of at a, hey, where's Live PD? And then they start showing something from like 3 years ago or 2 years. I know I said a couple of years, but they start showing something from a while back, and it kind of like, while it's calming, then it's like, wait a minute, I remember this show, and sure enough, there you go. So, leaders, how does this impact you? One, you have a product, you have a story, you have a message you need to share and get out with your people. So you communicate that story. And in this case, the story is everyday law enforcement activities across the nation. How they're similar, how they're dissimilar. How sometimes one jurisdiction will handle something one way and another jurisdiction, well, they have their own way of community interactions. So again, but check out that show in the evenings. They start like at 8 Central on Saturdays and Fridays and Saturdays, and they just recently stopped doing, actually last Friday, they just stopped doing the 2 hours. They now moved on to 3 hours. And so again, check it out if you haven't seen it. And of course, they replay it throughout the week. So check that out too if you get a moment here or there. So anyway, again, communicate your story. That's really the bottom line. Look, it's got me talking about it. So I'm Dave. This is Wednesday, May 13, 2020. Let's have a chat about leadership and the media. The media. There we go. Not in the, well, the media. In the media sources, and the multiple whatever works for you. We'll figure out the title later. But for now, have a good evening. I'll talk to you tomorrow.